I never thought a government contract would be the thing that ruined my life. 3 months earlier, I'd been working construction outside Spokane. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid enough to keep food on the table and gas in my truck. Then, the company folded overnight after losing a lawsuit nobody saw coming. Half the crew got laid off with no warning. At first, I thought I'd bounce back quickly. I didn't. Weeks turned into months. My savings disappeared. Debt collectors started calling daily. My landlord taped a final warning to my apartment door. I sold most of what I owned just to survive. My tools, my TV, even the old guitar my father left me. By October, I was sleeping in my truck some nights because I couldn't afford heating. That's when I found the listing. Overnight security contractor needed. Raven Rock military installation. Isolated site. Hazard pay included. No experience necessary. Immediate start. $45 an hour. I reread the number 3 times. Nobody paid that much for overnight security unless something was seriously wrong. But when you're desperate enough, your brain stops asking the questions it should. The email response came less than an hour after I applied. No interview, no resume request, no references. Just one sentence for sense. Do not approach the south gate. The drive took nearly 6 hours into the mountains. The deeper I went into the forest, the worse the roads became. Cell service vanished 2 hours before I reached the location. By the time I finally saw the chain link fencing rising through the trees, the sun was already disappearing behind the hills. Raven Rock military installation sat in a massive clearing surrounded by pine forest. Even abandoned, the place felt wrong. Rows of concrete buildings stretched across the property like giant tombs. Rusted watchtowers loomed overhead. Floodlights lined the fences, though none of them worked anymore. Thick coils of razor wire curled along the perimeter. Near the entrance sat a small portable office trailer with a single yellow light glowing inside. A tall man in a grey security uniform waited by the door. He looked to be in his late 50s. Buzz-cut grey hair, hollow eyes. Deep scars ran across the left side of his neck like claw marks. "Elias Mercer?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm Grant." His handshake was cold. Not emotionally cold, physically cold. Like he'd been standing outside in snow, Grant motioned me inside the trailer. The room smelled strongly of cigarette smoke and old paper. Surveillance monitors lined one wall, though most showed nothing but static. He handed me a flashlight, a radio, a ring of keys, and a laminated sheet. "Read every word," he said. The sheet was titled Raven Rock Night Security Protocols. There were 8 rules. Rule 1. Patrol routes A, B, and C must be completed every hour. Never skip building 14 even if the lights inside are active. Rule 2. If you hear military marching or cadence calls after 1 a.m., stop moving immediately and turn off your flashlight until the sounds pass. Rule 3. Personnel wearing outdated military uniforms may approach you and ask for identification. Do not answer them. Do not allow them within arm's reach. Rule 4. The siren may activate briefly at 17 a.m. If this occurs, proceed immediately to the nearest bunker entrance and remain inside until the second siren sounds. Rule 5. Never enter the underground command center beneath Building 14. If the hatch is open, close it and continue your patrol. Rule 6. If you encounter a soldier missing his lower jaw, avoid eye contact. He is able to mimic familiar voices. Rule 7. At exactly 3:40 a.m., all radios must remain silent for 1 full minute. Do not respond to any transmissions regardless of who is calling for help. Rule 8. If you see movement near the south gate, return to the security trailer immediately and lock all doors until sunrise. I looked up slowly. This some kind of joke? Grant didn't smile. You'll want to follow them. The way he said it made the air feel colder. I set the paper down. What exactly happened here? Grant lit a cigarette before answering. Officially, chemical weapons storage accident back in 1987. Base shut down after the fire. And unofficially, He stared at the static-filled monitors. Unofficially, some things never evacuated. The silence afterward stretched to long. I should have left. Every instinct I had screamed at me to get back in my truck and drive away. But I only had half a tank of gas and less than $40 in my account, so I signed the contract. Grant gave me one final warning before my shift began. Whatever happens tonight, don't investigate things that sound human. At 10:55 p.m., he drove away and left me alone inside Raven Rock, the front gates grown shut behind his truck. Then the forest became completely silent, no wind, no insects, no birds. Just silence. I started patrol Route A shortly after 11. The base was enormous. Concrete barracks lined the northern section while maintenance hangars occupied the west side. Old military trucks sat abandoned everywhere, their tires long rotted away. Broken floodlights cast twisted shadows across cracked pavement. My flashlight beam bounced through the darkness as I walked. The first hour was uneventful. Mostly I just tried convincing myself the rules were elaborate hazing meant to scare new hires. But around 12:13 a.m., I reached Building 14 and saw lights inside. Every window glowed faintly yellow. I stopped walking. Grant had specifically mentioned the building. The rest of the base was completely dark. Only Building 14 had power. I approached slowly. The structure looked older than the others. Thick concrete walls, narrow windows reinforced with metal bars. A faded military emblem remained barely visible above the entrance. As I stepped closer, I realized the lights weren't steady. They flickered, like old fluorescent bulbs. Then I heard movement inside. Footsteps, several of them, slow, heavy. I remembered Rule 1. Never skip Building 14 even if the lights inside are active, which implied the lights turning on was normal. That realization somehow frightened me more. I quickly marked the building as cleared on my patrol log and kept moving. The footsteps continued behind me long after I left. At 12:52 a.m., I heard the first cadence call, left, left, left dash, right dash, left. The voices echoed faintly through the darkness beyond the barracks. At first, I thought it was coming from a speaker system. Then more than dozens of them marching them. Rule dos. I immediately killed my flashlight. Darkness swallowed me. The marching grew louder, closer. Boots slammed against pavement somewhere ahead. I held my breath. The cadence sounded old-fashioned, almost distorted, like an audio recording played through damaged speakers. Then I realized something horrifying. The marching wasn't staying on the road. It was circling me slowly. I could hear boots crunching gravel only feet away now. Hundreds of synchronized footsteps moving around me in total darkness. The voices kept chanting left, left, left dash, right dash, left. Suddenly another voice whispered directly beside my ear. Turn the light back on, I nearly screamed. The whisper sounded exactly like my older brother. My hands shook violently around the flashlight. But I remembered Grant's warning. Don't investigate things that sound human, so I stood completely still. After what felt like forever, the marching slowly faded into the distance. When I finally turned my flashlight back on, the pavement around me was covered in muddy boot prints. Hundreds of them, all marching in circles around where I'd been standing. By 1:30 a.m., my nerves were destroyed. Every shadow looked wrong. Every sound made me flinch. That's when I saw the soldier. He stood near one of the watchtowers, partially hidden by darkness, the old camouflage uniform, combat boots, helmet. At first glance, he looked normal. Then, he stepped closer into my flashlight beam. The lower half of his face was gone. Not injured, missing. His jaw ended in ragged flesh beneath his upper teeth. I stumbled backward instinctively. The soldier tilted his head, then he spoke. Eli. It was my mother's voice. Perfectly warm. Concern. Honey, where? My entire body went cold. The thing took another step toward me. You need to come home. Same voice. Exactly the same. Rule 6 flashed through my mind. Avoid eye contact. I lowered my flashlight immediately and backed away. The soldier kept talking, now using my father's voice. Then my ex-girlfriends. then my own. Each sentence sounded desperate and panicked. Please help me. Don't leave me here. They're coming back. The voices overlapped horribly as the thing followed me across the courtyard. I refused to look up. Eventually, the footsteps stopped. But the voices continued whispering from somewhere behind me for several minutes. At exactly to 17 a.m., the siren activated. Rows of metal bunks lined the walls. Dust coated everything. At least, I thought it was dust. Then I noticed the smell. Copper. Blood. My flashlight beam moved lower. The bunker floor was covered in long black stains. Something scraped softly deeper underground. I remembered Rule 5. Never enter the underground command center beneath Building 14, meaning there were tunnels. Connected tunnels. The scraping sound came again. Slow, dragging footsteps. Then a wet coughing noise echoed through the darkness below. My radio crackled suddenly. Security to Bunker 7. Respond. Grant's voice. I grabbed the radio instinctively, then froze. Rule 7 hadn't started yet, but something felt wrong. The transmission repeated. Elias, answer me. Not Mercer. Elias. Grant had never once called me that. A loud metallic bang echoed somewhere beneath the bunker floor, then another. Something was climbing upward. The radio crackled again. Open the lower hatch. This time it wasn't Grant's voice. It was my brother's, the same brother who died 4 years earlier. I dropped the radio. The dragging footsteps accelerated rapidly beneath me. I bolted from the bunker seconds before the second siren sounded. Outside, the floodlights died again. Darkness reclaimed the base. The rest of patrol route felt endless. I kept seeing movement between buildings. Figures standing at attention in the distance. Every time I aimed my flashlight directly at them, they disappeared. Around 3:05 a.m., freezing rain began falling. The base looked even more dead beneath the storm. I considered abandoning the job entirely, getting in my truck, driving through the gates. Never looking back. Then I remembered the pay. I hated myself for it, but I kept patrolling. At 3:32 a.m., I arrived back near Building 14. The lights inside were brighter now, and the underground hatch beside the building was open. A rectangle of darkness yawned beneath the rain. Rule 5. If the hatch is open, close it and continue your patrol. Simple. I approached cautiously. The hatch door was massive steel, hanging partially open above a stairwell descending underground. Cold air drifted upward carrying a terrible smell. Rot burned plastic. Something dozens of them. Not whispers. Conversation. Like a room full of people speaking quietly at once. I stepped closer despite myself. The voices stopped immediately. Silence flooded the stairwell. My flashlight beam reached only a few feet downward before darkness swallowed it. Then someone spoke from below. Please close the hatch. A young woman's voice, crying. They can hear you when it stays open. I should have shut it immediately. Instead I asked, who's down there? Big mistake. The voice answered instantly. Come see. Something moved far beneath the stairs. A shape. To largi. The darkness itself seemed to shift. Then every voice below began speaking together. Come see. I slammed the hatch shut. The impact echoed across the courtyard. And that's when every light inside Building 14 went dark simultaneously. For 1 second, the entire base became completely black. Then my radio exploded with static. 3:40 a.m. Rule 7. All radios must remain silent for 1 full minute. The static cleared. People began screaming through the radio. Not one voice. Many. Soldiers shouting over each other. Gunfire cracked in the background. Get the doors closed. They're inside the tunnels. Medic, please sambans. My hand hovered over the radio. Every instinct screamed at me to respond. Then I heard Grant's voice. Elias, listen carefully. They aren't dead. The transmission dissolved into static. More screaming followed. Then something worse. Children crying. I clenched the radio tighter. A terrified little girl sobbed through the speaker. Mister. Please answer me. I almost broke the rule, almost. Then I noticed something. The crying wasn't only coming from the radio anymore, it was outside too, somewhere behind me. I turned slowly. Figures stood across the courtyard, at least 20 of them. Soldiers, motionless beneath the rain. Everyone missing their lower jaw. The radios all across their belts crackled simultaneously. Mister, please answer me. Same child's voice, their heads tilted in unison, toward me. I backed away slowly. None of them moved. The minute finally ended. The radio fell silent, and every soldier vanished, just gone. I started toward the security trailer immediately. I didn't care about finishing patrols anymore. I only wanted sunrise. The rain intensified as I crossed the base. Then lightning flashed overhead and illuminated movement near the south gate. Rule 8. If you see movement near the south gate, return to the security trailer immediately and lock all doors until sunrise. The figures standing by the gate were enormous. At first I thought they were military vehicles. Then another lightning flash revealed the truth. People. Or what used to be people. Tall, thin, standing unnaturally still. Dozens of them lined the fencing beyond the south entrance. Their bodies twitched violently whenever lightning illuminated them. One stepped forward. Its skin looked blackened and cracked like burned wood. Long military dog tags dangled from its neck. Then all of them began walking toward the base simultaneously, not running. Marching to lift, dash right, dash lift. The cadence echoed across Raven Rock. I ran. My boots slipped across wet pavement as I sprinted toward the trailer. Behind me, the marching grew louder and possibly fast. The cadence calls became distorted screams. Floodlights exploded overhead one after another. Something slammed against a nearby building hard enough to shake the ground. I reached the trailer and threw myself inside. The deadbolt locked just as something struck the outside wall. The entire structure rattled violently. I killed the lights immediately. Heavy footsteps circled outside. Not human footsteps. Too heavy. The trailer windows trembled, then came scratching. Long fingernails, dragging slowly across metal. My radio crackled one final time. Grant's voice whispered softly, "Don't look outside." Something tapped gently against the glass beside me. 3 slow knocks. I squeezed my eyes shut. The tapping continued, then came another sound, breathing, wet, labored. Directly outside the window, I stayed completely still. Hours seemed to pass. Occasionally something massive moved around the trailer. Sometimes I heard whispering outside, sometimes marching. At one point something began speaking through the door in my own voice. "Let me in." The sky finally began brightening around 6:45 a.m. The noises stopped immediately. Sunlight crept slowly across the base. I waited another 20 minutes before unlocking the trailer. The outside air smelled like wet ash. The entire base looked normal again, no creatures. No soldiers, no movement, only silence. Then I noticed the ground around the trailer. Thousands of muddy boot prints. All facing the windows. Grant arrived shortly after 7. He stepped from his truck holding 2 cups of coffee. "You made it," he said, like he genuinely hadn't expected me to. I immediately shoved the laminated rules sheet toward him. "What the hell is this place?" Grant stared at the base for a long moment before answering. In 1987, Raven Rock was running experiments beneath Building 14. Behavioral conditioning, chemical exposure, psychological warfare. His expression darkened. Then something escaped underground. I waited for more. He didn't continue. "That's it," I snapped. "You're just leaving people here with whatever this is." Grant took a slow sip of coffee. "The base needs watching." "Why?" His eyes drifted toward Building 14. "Because every few months, something tries to leave. I quit immediately. Didn't even wait for payment. I got in my truck and drove away from Raven Rock as fast as I could. I should have known it wouldn't end there." The nightmares started 3 nights later. Marching sounds outside my apartment. Cadence calls at exactly 1 a.m. Radio static in rooms with no electronics. Then came the voices. People I loved speaking from empty hallways, begging me to answer. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. Every mirror in my apartment began fogging from the inside. One morning I found muddy boot prints leading across my kitchen floor. No footprints leading out. I moved twice after that. The phenomena followed me. Last week I woke up to find military dog tags hanging from my bedroom doorknob. They were rusted black. The name stamped onto them read, Mercer, Elias. Underneath was a second line. Raven Rock Security Division. I never gave them permission to make those. Yesterday, I received another email from the same address that hired me. No subject line, no greeting, just one sentence. Your reassignment begins Friday at 11 p.m. Attached was a new rules sheet. There are 12 rules now, and Rule 9 has my name in it.